The Nigerian Naira is roughly more than 60% weaker than it was a year ago, and while government has tried to boost liquidity in FX markets with interest rate adjustments, the currency crisis persists. Oyinkansola, who's research analyst at RMB Nigeria, joins us with her outlook for the trajectory of that currency and its impact on the West African nation. Oyinkansola, thank you so much for your time and a good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
All right, maybe we can start off by speaking about the trajectory of the Naira to date and also look at what is still driving that currency market.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So the Naira has, had a very eventful start to the year. We saw that sharp devaluation at the start of the year, where the Naira touched highs of about 1,700 against the USD in about February. And really what was driving that was a sort of lull in monetary policy implementation. The MPC had yet to meet at the stage. And then subsequently, we started to see some efforts from the CBN, from the central bank rather, to boost market confidence and improve liquidity. And so we saw a pretty significant rally in the currency coming into April. And now we're back again on a downward trajectory, and we're seeing a steady slide in the Naira against the USD. Really, the long and short of it is that we're in a supply deficit, right? There's heightened demand in the market, and there's just not enough supply to meet that demand. Granted, FPIs have returned, but they haven't quite returned in the sizes that we used to see pre-COVID, right? And the CBN is, we see good effort from the CBN to boost supply, but what we can sort of insinuate from the sort of intermittent supply that they bring is that there's just not enough to meet the demand. So long and short is that it's a supply issue that's really driving the currency sentiment at this point.
It does become difficult to then, try to see a near-term outlook for the currency, but let's talk about that.
Yeah, no, you're correct. It's very tricky forecasting for the Naira this year. But we believe that the Naira will continue to lose some of its value against the USD. We're coming up on a pretty significant NDF maturity by the end of May, and that will basically place the demand for circa 1 billion USD in the market. Just after that, historically, the seasonal demand for the USD in Nigeria picks up around Q3. So we think that there's still a bit of pressure on the Naira. The only thing that could sort of hedge that for us would be if we see some of these long-term borrowings that we've sort of heard whispers about come through. But from what we know now that's concrete, there's still a bit of pressure for the Naira. For context, we have the Naira trading around 1,600, just shy of 1,700 by the media points. That's our forecast for the Naira.
Of course, there's also the inflation question that ties in with the Naira there. We do know that we are currently experiencing a bout of record inflation. Let's also talk about the drivers there and the outlook for that print.
Right. So we get the April print today. We think that we'll land just over 34%. Inflation, like you said, we're currently at multi-decade highs. Food inflation is the main driver, but also there is the currency. Food inflation has been a pain, and it's really from the insecurity and banditry that we have in a lot of the food producing states. Also the currency, like I said, some of the reform adjustments to petrol prices, diesel prices. So the outlook for inflation is still pretty bleak. We think that inflation will peak around the mid-30s by mid-year and only start to slow down in the second half of this year. And the slowdown will really be on the back of base effects, not really from any change in fundamentals. So inflation largely above 30%, at least through 2024.
Oyinkansola, with the supply deficit of the Naira that we've spoken about, as well as where we are in terms of inflation, I'm also then just to maybe touch on what the sense that you're getting around confidence within Nigeria, from the consumer, from business in this environment.
Yeah, so in terms of market confidence, I think it is still lacking, which is a major part of why we're seeing this slide in the currency again in May after we saw that appreciation in April. Even just from the everyday consumer, everyone's sort of trying to hedge their Naira earnings and buy USD. And it's really because there's not enough supply from who is at this stage the main supplier to the market, which is the central bank. And since that's lacking, sentiments will continue to wane. We think that the CBN will need some significant supply from some of the long-term borrowings that we think will come into play at some point this year to be able to boost that market confidence. So until we see significant supply in the market that sort of balances out the demand or even outweighs the demand, market confidence will still be lacking in our view.
All we have time for this afternoon. Thank you so much for talking to us about this one, Oyinkansola. It's been a pleasure. That was Oyinkansola Samuel. She's research analyst at RMB Nigeria.